Sonny Melendrez, Sonny Radio, sonnyradio.com.
Hello. It's Sonny Melendrez, and welcome to the positive side of the radio spectrum. This is the all-new Sonny Melendrez Show. Each week, we strive to bring you inspiration and entertainment through storytelling, fascinating guests, exclusive celebrity interviews, and most of all, lots of enthusiasm. This show is now heard in 42 countries around the world, including Australia. A big shout out to Michael James Sullivan. Michael James Sullivan, listening in Caringbah South, New South Wales. Michael, great to have you with us. And now, on with the show.
Sonny Radio, sonnyradio.com.
You might say that my guest today is in the business of mindful healing. Psychiatrist Harry Croft is based in San Antonio and just happens to be the leading authority on PTSD. He's appeared on hundreds of news outlets throughout the globe and coined a phrase years ago that you may have used.
The mind is powerful medicine.
Welcome, Harry Croft.
Thank you for having me.
To explain to what people who don't know who Harry Croft is, what it is you do and how many places you go to. I mean, I just saw this video of the unbelievable, incredible year you had. You were all over and you do conferences and everything else. Tell us about that.
My day job is to be a psychiatrist. I've been a practicing psychiatrist for 40 plus years. And we do clinical trial work. We do research for new medications. And now what I do is I see veterans most days a week for evaluations, disability evaluations for PTSD and TBI. I've been doing that for 25 years now, 8,000 veterans that we've seen. So that's my day job.
Amazing.
But in addition to that,
yes,
what I love is teaching. Teaching is my passion. And whether it's teaching in person, like talking to physicians or mental health professionals, or whether it's teaching over webinars, or whether it's teaching at large conferences, or in the past teaching on television, I love teaching, and I feel like, sometimes, especially when we're talking about mental illness, we think about medications and brain scans and EEGs and so forth. But in addition to that, there's just kind of normal learning to cope with day-to-day problems, learning how to live your life more effectively and more satisfying and more enjoyably. And I love teaching about that as well. So I travel, as you said, hither, thither, and yon around the country. Sonny, I've been so fortunate. I've lectured in all 50 states.
Wow.
And 8 foreign countries.
Amazing.
And the travel sometime is great. But sometime, as you know, because you go as well, you see an airplane, an airport, a hotel, the venue you're talking in, an airport, and an airplane, and that's pretty much it. And they say, well, gosh, you're so lucky to go to all these places. And I think, well, sometimes I was lucky. Sometimes I took my wife, Panay. Sometimes we took our granddaughter, Carson, where we went. But oftentimes it's just the travel. That's kind of a hassle, as you know.
Right.
But being in front of a group, talking to people, watching their response is just wonderful.
It's oxygen, isn't it?
It really
is.
My goodness. I just got back from a big conference in Orlando, and I got to give talks on 2 different days, and it was very exciting. One of the people who sponsored me said, do you ever get scared going up on the stage? And I explained to her, I get scared preparing the talk. I want it to be right. I want it to be professional. I want it to be appealing and to the point that the people listening get something from it. So I practice and I practice and I practice. That's the scary part. And just before I go up on the stage, I take some deep breaths. But once I'm there on the stage, I mean, it's just like you said, it's like oxygen.
It is.
You know?
It is.
It's exciting, and it's funny. I kind of wish it wouldn't be over, you know, at some point.
I totally agree. I understand, and I relate to this because you and I both have the same philosophy about that. And, you know, you're such a great teacher, and you always have been. The first time I met you, you were on television doing a series. You've done a lot. But you coined the phrase, the mind is powerful medicine.
Yep.
Explain that.
It's, you know, let me back up a minute. I started teaching on television. Some of your audience probably won't even know who I'm talking about, but Art Uleen was a physician. He was the Today Show doctor, the NBC doctor. And I was going to be the Art Uleen of psychiatry. So when I started my TV gig, I thought, that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to talk about all of the new things that everybody I thought would be fascinated by. My dog died one week. He was old, and it wasn't unexpected, but he died. And I decided to do a piece on how do you cope with the death of your pet.
Right.
People understand when a member of your family or a human being dies that you would be sad, and it might really affect you greatly. But unlike that, people who don't have pets often wonder, well, what's the big deal? It was just a dog. It was just a cat. It was just a bird.
No.
And so I did this piece called Surviving the Death of Your Pet. And I interviewed people, and we went to the pet cemetery and all that. Back in those days, Sonny, as you know, we didn't have computers. We had postcards. Postcards was how people, you know, communicated with those of us on TV. And I had been doing TV a little while, and I would get a few postcards, a few letters. After this one piece, I mean, I was inundated with mail. I mean, all these people thanking me for this piece because they said, you know, that explains it, because I couldn't explain to people why I felt so sad. And that's when I realized what people really wanted to know was not necessarily the latest, greatest, the biggest scan, PET scan and MRI and all that stuff. They wanted to know about normal, everyday things. And I thought, how do I put that into a language that people would understand? And this idea, the mind is powerful medicine, came to me, and it was that became the catchphrase that we used.
Harry, you've done it not only all this time, but you do it in such a wonderful. You really are a born teacher, and you know what I love is your enthusiasm. I'm sitting here in front of you, and I'm looking at your face, and I can see that you just can't wait to tell these these stories. You have really a magical way of enjoying life. You and your wife Benet have literally been all over the world.
Yes,
I've seen pictures of you with the koala bears and with the elephants, and where did
that all? Penguins?
Yeah, and the penguins too. Yeah. What joy does that give you? I understand the traveling and everything else, but there's got to be a connection there with these creatures.
Yeah, Benet, my wife.
How many years?
By the way, this year is 55 years.
Oh,
55
congratulations.
years.
Wow.
And we went together for 9 or 10 years.
Yeah. And that was a speed limit when you and you went together.
I told her one time, I said, I'm thinking about a divorce. And she looked at me and she said, don't even think about it because you can't afford it. And so I guess I'm in for the long haul.
I think so.
The good news is Benet and I still like each other, and we have fun together, and we do things. She loves animals, and she takes just beautiful, beautiful pictures. And I found, I enjoyed that as well.
You talk about being a kid, and I remember you telling me a story about when you were, I guess, 11, 12 years old, and you were a magician.
Yeah.
Tell me what happened.
I don't know which story you're thinking about.
Well, it had to do with the fire department.
Oh, yeah. No, that was actually older. I went to SMU.
Uh-huh.
And
that's right.
At SMU,
yes.
There was the big deal, the big show. It was called the Pigskin Review, and it was really pretty professional. When we were kids, we bought our magic in Houston at Howard's Fun Shop. And the Fun Shop was, Howard not only sold magic stuff, that's where we bought our stuff,
right?
But he sold party items, and maybe we'll come back to that. But we met some wonderful professionals. We met this one guy who did these programs for schools, and he would have all the kids fill out their name, address, phone number, and he would keep these cards. He said if business ever got bad with the PTAs, he might do individual parties. Well, he didn't, so he gave us these cards. So my friend and I became the Mysterious Marvels. That was our thing. We actually had us a tuxedo made.
Yeah.
That a red tuxedo with a black shawl. I mean, it was
really
cool. And then one of the guys we met was a fire eater. His name was Jean de Jean. He was the fire eater, and he taught us how to do the fire eating. So I go to SMU. I'm coming to the homecoming.
He taught you how to eat fire.
Yeah, I'm working on the homecoming deal, and I'm practicing my act, and then it was a cool trick. I mean, I took the the flame, and I put it out in my mouth, and then I blew the flame out of my mouth, and I relit the torch. I mean, it was a cool trick.
I guess.
It was a very cool trick. And I'm practicing, and the next thing I know, I smell burning something. Well, the fire, I don't want to give away the trick, but the fire burns very cool at the beginning.
Yes.
Well, I look in the mirror, and my face is on fire. I mean, it's on fire.
Not your hair.
No,
your face.
My face is on fire, and I'm slapping my face.
My.
And Benet, we were going together then.
Yeah.
And she said, "That's the end of your fire eating career." That was that. Let me go back to Howard's Fun Shop.
Please.
I just gotta tell you.
No, please.
I was 11 years old. You mentioned it. Here I am working, and kids could work back in those days. And they sold novelty items, party items,
right.
Some of which were a little risque, actually. Here I am, 11, and this older lady comes in, and she says, young man, she says, I need to buy a gift for a party. And I looked at her. I'd watched Howard do this. I said, do you want something a little off color?
You were 11 and you said
11
that?
years old. Do you want something a little off color? This older lady looks at me and she says, young man, what colors do you have? I'm not sure I knew how to answer that. No, I said, this is what we got, lady. It was
Howard was a big influence on
Howard was a big influence on my life.
Yeah, here in San Antonio, we had a place called the Fun and Magic Store.
Yep.
And I would go there, like, at least every other week
Yep.
to see the latest trick or whatever. And you see, you are a true magician because you said, I don't want to give away the trick.
Right.
And that's what a true magician would say. That's right. All right. A lot of times people who have a personality that is very positive, and it's consistently positive, they're always second-guessed, and they're always, people are always doubting, well, nobody can be that happy. What do you say when someone says that to you? When you, because all the time that I've known you've always had a positive outlook. Plus, you've always helped other people to see the positive side of life, and how you really control your own destiny through your attitude.
I've been lucky. I've lived a wonderful life, personally, professionally.
You keep talking in the past tense, Harry. It's not over yet.
When you start etching up towards 75, you start thinking.
No, Harry, come on.
You know what's interesting, though, Sonny? I don't know what 74 is supposed to feel like. I don't feel old, and I don't imagine myself as old as I remember people 74, 75 being when I was growing up.
Right.
They seemed so much older. But I've been very fortunate, and most of the things in my life have gone well. But I learned a long time ago, especially being in the public eye, much like you, that even though you may be hurting inside, if somebody else is counting on me, whether it's a talk or whether it's a TV thing or whether it's a patient
or a family member,
I'm seeing, or a family member, I do my best for those few moments to try to attend to them. In Alcoholics Anonymous, when people are suffering from alcohol or drug-related problems, one of the slogans is fake it till you make it. That it is possible to have feelings inside and yet do things on the outside that don't show all those feelings on the inside. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes you can hold things in too much. But you're right. For the most part, I'm blessed. And so I love life, and I look forward every day to doing whatever it is I'm doing that day. It may be tending to the plants outside, but it's something I'm looking forward to. And I used to talk to my patients when I was seeing patients every day that you've got to find a reason in your life to get up. Besides the fact that the sun is now shining.
Exactly.
There's got to be something that drives you on the inside. It may be something very minor to other people, but it's good enough to get your enthusiasm up. That's one of the things I love about you, is your enthusiasm. I mean, when you did your CD, the stories you told, the title of it is about enthusiasm, and I love that.
Well, thank
because
you.
it does show, and I think it makes everybody around you feel better as well.
It does, and it's a choice as well.
Sonny, I told you I see veterans. I see veterans who are 50, who look so old. Not just physically, but they sound old and they act old, and their lives are not nearly as good as they could be.
You wrote an article recently. It was about one of the shootings that took place, and there have been so many now. And it was a Marine, ex-Marine, who had PTSD. And you wanted to make sure that people understood the difference between PTSD and having other issues as well.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. The national media frequently will call me. I mean, I'll get calls from, the biggest, I think, was from China TV.
Yeah.
They did a live interview. I get calls from all over. They know me as a PTSD expert because we wrote the book on PTSD. Thank you. But one of the tragedies is when I get calls, it's usually about a tragedy that's occurred. It's usually about a veteran who's done something tragic. A shooting or whatever it's been.
Yes.
And that's when they call me. And it occurred to me, one of my interest areas is helping veterans get the civilian jobs that will be most valuable to them. And it occurred to me that these tragedies bring with it stigma, because that's what a lot of employers know about PTSD. The only thing they know is that all these headlines say when tragedies happen, it's PTSD. So when another tragedy occurred, I wrote this article, as you said, that was picked up by a number of outlets, that to say that wasn't PTSD that caused this ex-military member to do what he did. There may have been other things, substance abuse, family issues, drug abuse, other kinds of issues, but that's not characteristic. That kind of behavior is not characteristic of PTSD, and I wanted people to know that.
What would you say to a family member who has someone? Step
one is do something. Even if the person with the disorder doesn't want to do it, because treatment of PTSD is paradoxical. We sometimes do things that are not intuitive. They're counterintuitive. For example, one of the symptoms of PTSD is not wanting to talk about your experiences. Most people who may hear this, who have friends or who themselves are suffering from PTSD, know that you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to think about it. You don't want to come into contact with something that reminds you of the experience. And so the treatment involves doing just the opposite. That's why it's paradoxical. If not talking about it, keeping it quiet, keeping it inside would make it go away, then it would be worth doing that. But it doesn't, because time alone does not heal PTSD. So number one is have them do something, even if at the time they don't want to listen to you. You know, they say, oh, get off my back. I don't want to talk about it. You keep planting the seed, you keep fertilizing it every chance you get without jumping all over them so you make them angry. Number two, help them to learn something about what PTSD is and what it isn't. And then encourage them to get treatment. And by the way, treatment is not simply taking a pill. It's usually talking to some therapist who knows what they're doing about what they're going through. The final step of PTSD treatment, I think, the people I've seen over my 25 years that have gotten well, find something bigger than themselves to get involved in. It might be mentoring other people. It might be writing. It might be just befriending others, but something bigger than themselves to help them put their experience into perspective and to help other people suffering from what they were suffering from. The cover of our book is called I Always Sit With My Back to the Wall.
Yes.
And the cover of the book is a picture of a veteran sitting with his back toward the wall. And this ex-detective is now into art and drew this wonderful picture that's in my waiting room. And so there are many others, but it's not prayer and fasting that makes them better. That may help, but it's not going to do the trick. They need treatment. And this guy got treatment and is now helping others.
Well, Harry, I want to tell you that you have helped others, and you do that every single day with every single conversation. Just being in the room with Harry Croft it makes for a better world and a better life for someone.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Just as an aside, my first interview in the media in San Antonio, Texas, I don't know if you remember this, but was you.
Really?
At Magic.
Really?
Yes, it was.
I'll be darned.
And when I found out I was going to be interviewed by Sonny Melendrez, it was the highlight of my time at that time.
Likewise, Harry, and I know we'll have many, many more conversations, many more interviews, because we got a lot of people to teach.
Good deal. Good deal.
Thanks, Harry.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Well, that's a wrap. It goes by like that, doesn't it? Now, don't forget you can listen to the show on demand anytime at sunnyradio.com/show. And you can subscribe to the podcast version of the program. Till next time, I'm Sonny Melendrez. And let's not forget,
The mind is powerful medicine.
Bye-bye.